The medical ship Unity drifted through the neutral zone between human and Kraxan space. Its white hull bore the universal Red Cross symbol, marking it as a vessel of mercy. Inside, Dr. James worked tirelessly in the surgery bay, saving lives of both humans and aliens alike. The ship carried no weapons, only healing equipment, and hope. Captain Roberts stood on the bridge, watching the stars pass by. He had commanded this vessel for 10 years, ferrying the wounded from battlefields to safety. The war between humanity and the Kraxan Empire had raged for 3 years, but hospital ships remained untouchable. It was an ancient law of war, respected by all civilized species. The sensors beeped. 3 Kraxan warships appeared on the screen. Roberts felt no fear. They would pass by, as they always did. Hospital ships were sacred. "Captain, they're charging weapons," the navigation officer said, his voice shaking. Roberts grabbed a communication device. "Kraxan vessels, this is medical ship Unity. We are unarmed and carrying wounded. Stand down." The response came from Admiral Vex, the Kraxan fleet commander. His reptilian face appeared on the screen. "Humans have become too strong. We must break your spirit. Your mercy makes you weak. There are Kraxan wounded aboard, too." Roberts shouted, "Your own people." "Acceptable losses," Vex replied coldly. The first plasma bolt tore through Unity's hull. The ship shuddered and alarm screamed. Roberts watched in horror as the medical bay vented into space. Hundreds of patients, doctors, and nurses were pulled into the void. The second and third shots followed quickly. The ship broke apart, in his final moments. Roberts activated the emergency beacon, broadcasting the ship's last images across all human channels. Then darkness took him. On Earth, in a small apartment in New Tokyo, a young man named David sat at his computer. He was 25, unremarkable in appearance, but his mind was exceptional. He had an IQ that couldn't be properly measured and had spent his life creating defensive systems for humanity's colonies. War didn't interest him. He believed in protection, not aggression. The emergency broadcast appeared on his screen. He watched the Unity die. He saw the patients floating in space. He saw children among them. His hands trembled. David had always avoided military work. He designed shields, medical equipment, and agricultural systems. But as he watched the hospital ship burn, something changed inside him. The Kraxans had crossed a line that should never be crossed. He opened a new file on his computer and began to type. His fingers moved faster than thought. Equations filled the screen. Designs took shape. In his mind, he could see it all clearly. Not just weapons, but something far more devastating. The complete dismantling of an empire. The human government received his first design 12 hours later. General Miller, head of Earth Defense, looked at the plans and felt his blood run cold. "This kid designed this in half a day?" "Yes, sir. He says he has more coming." "Much more." Miller studied the weapon specifications. It was elegant, terrible, and absolutely brilliant. Get him whatever he needs. David didn't want money or fame. He wanted one thing, to ensure no one would ever fire on a hospital ship again. He would teach the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. The news of Unity's destruction spread across human space like wildfire. Colonies that had been neutral joined the war effort. Soldiers who had been ready to retire re-enlisted. The entire human race united in rage. But it was David, sitting alone in his apartment, who would deliver humanity's true response. He worked without sleep, without food, driven by the images burned into his mind. Each design was more innovative than the last. Each strategy more devastating. The Kraxans had made a fatal error. They thought humans were weak because they showed mercy. They didn't understand that human mercy was a choice, not a weakness. And now that choice had been taken away. The revenge of humanity would not come as a savage attack. It would come as calculated, brilliant, and total destruction of everything the Craxans had built. And it would all come from the mind of one quiet genius who had finally found his purpose. Asterisk. 3 days after the Unity's destruction, David stood before the Earth Defense Council. The room was filled with admirals, generals, and scientists. They all stared at the young man who had sent them impossible designs. "Show us," General Miller said simply. David activated the holographic display. A 3-dimensional blueprint materialized in the air. "This is the Cascade Drive. It doesn't destroy ships. It removes them from existence." Admiral Thompson leaned forward. "Explain. Every ship has a quantum signature," David began, his voice steady and clear. "The Cascade Drive creates a wave that unravels that signature. The atoms simply stop being connected. No explosion, no debris. They just stop. That's impossible," Professor Wilson protested. "The energy requirements alone," David changed the display. New equations appeared. "Not if we use their own engines against them. Craxan ships use dark matter cores. I found a way to reverse their polarity remotely." The room fell silent. They were looking at a weapon that could end the war in days, not years. "There's more," David continued. He showed them design after design. A shield that turned energy weapons back on their attackers. Drones that could replicate themselves using enemy hull material. A virus that would make Craxan navigation computers fly their ships into stars. "How long to build these?" Miller asked. "The first Cascade Drive can be ready in 2 weeks. The others will follow quickly. But I have conditions." The council members exchanged glances. "Name them," Miller said. "First, we broadcast a warning. Every Craxan ship and colony gets one chance to surrender. Second, we spare any ship carrying medical supplies or civilians. Third, when this is over, we establish new laws. Anyone who fires on a hospital ship faces immediate extinction. No trial, no mercy." Admiral Thompson stood up. "You're talking about genocide." "No," David replied, his eyes hard. "I'm talking about justice. They killed doctors, nurses, and patients. They killed children. They broke the most sacred law of war. Now they face the consequences." The vote was unanimous. Humanity would build David's weapons. 2 weeks later, in the Mars shipyards, the first Cascade Drive was installed on the battleship Retribution. Captain Foster, a veteran of 20 battles, looked at the small device. It was no bigger than a standard engine core, but it hummed with potential destruction. "Run the test," Foster ordered. They targeted a captured Craxan frigate, empty and floating in deep space. Foster pressed the activation button. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the frigate simply wasn't there anymore. No flash, no explosion. One moment it existed, the next it didn't. "God help us," Foster whispered Dot on the Craxan homeworld. Admiral Vex received reports of human fleet movements. He laughed. "Let them come. We have 10,000 ships. They have 3,000 at most." His aide entered the room. "Sir, the humans are broadcasting something." The message was simple, delivered by David himself, though the Craxans didn't know who he was. "Forces of the Craxan Empire. You fired upon a hospital ship. You killed the defenseless. You have 72 hours to surrender unconditionally. This is your only warning. Those who surrender will be treated according to the laws of war. Those who don't will discover why humanity chose mercy, and what happens when that choice is taken from us." Vex laughed again. Empty threats from a dying species. But in human space, the production lines ran day and night. David's designs were being built at impossible speed. Every human colony contributed resources. Every factory switched to military production. Even children collected scrap metal. David himself didn't sleep. He refined his designs, made them more efficient, more devastating. He received reports from the front lines and adapted his weapons to counter Craxan defenses. His apartment had become a command center, with dozens of screens showing real-time battle data. His assistant, Tom, brought him food he didn't eat. "David, you need to rest." "Not yet," David replied, his fingers never stopping. "Not until they understand." "Understand what?" David finally looked up, and Tom saw something terrible in his eyes. "That mercy was our gift to the galaxy. They rejected it. Now they'll receive our other gift, the complete understanding of what happens when you wake the sleeping giant of human innovation." The 72 hours were almost up. Across human space, ships equipped with David's weapons moved into position. The Craxans had no idea what was coming. They thought they faced normal human ships with normal weapons. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Asterisk. The deadline passed at 0800 Earth Standard Time. Not a single Craxan ship had surrendered. Admiral Vex had sent back a mocking response. "Come and die, weak humans." In the command center on Earth, General Miller turned to David. "It's time." David nodded and activated his private communication channel. His voice reached every human ship simultaneously. "Execute Protocol 1. Captain Foster on the Retribution targeted the Craxan forward base at Sigma Station. 500 enemy ships defended it. Cascade drive charging," his weapons officer reported. "Fire." The wave erupted from the Retribution, invisible to the eye, but visible on every sensor. It spread outward at the speed of light. When it touched the first Craxan destroyer, the ship flickered and vanished. Then the next. And the next dot in 30 seconds. All 500 ships were gone. Sigma Station itself wavered and disappeared. 20,000 Craxan soldiers ceased to exist between one heartbeat and the next. Foster's crew stood in stunned silence. They had just eliminated a force that would have taken months to defeat in conventional battle. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. The battleship Victory eliminated the Craxan fleet at Proxima. The cruiser Phoenix erased 300 ships at the Vegan Gate. In 1 hour, the Craxan Empire lost half its navy. On the Craxan homeworld, Vex watched the reports in disbelief. What weapon is this? How are they doing this? His scientists had no answers. They couldn't understand technology that shouldn't exist, designed by a mind they couldn't comprehend. But David wasn't finished. "Execute Protocol 2, he commanded. The second wave of attacks began. Human drones, no bigger than basketballs, attached themselves to Craxan ships. These were the Devourers, another of David's creations. They ate through hull metal and replicated themselves, creating more drones from the consumed material. 1 drone became 2, 2 became 4, 4 became 8. The Craxan cruiser Dominance was the first victim. The crew watched in horror as holes appeared in their walls, small machines pouring through. Within minutes, the ship was being eaten from the inside out. The drones consumed everything except life pods, allowing the crew to escape before their ship became a cloud of tiny machines. "Sir, we're receiving distress calls from everywhere." Vex's aide reported. "The humans are using weapons we've never seen." David monitored everything from his apartment. Each screen showed different battles, different weapons being deployed. His virus had infected Craxan navigation systems, sending their ships into stars or planets. His reflection shields turned their own plasma weapons against them. But he saved the most devastating weapon for last. Protocol 3. David announced that this was the quantum net, perhaps his most brilliant creation. It targeted the Craxans' dark matter cores, the power source of their entire civilization. Every ship, every station, every planetary power grid used these cores. The net spread through subspace, finding every dark matter signature in Craxan space. Then, simultaneously, it reversed their polarity. On thousands of ships, Power cores suddenly stopped working. Lights went out. Life support failed. Weapons became useless. The entire Kraxan fleet was suddenly adrift in space, helpless. On their homeworld, cities went dark. Hospitals lost power. Transportation systems stopped. In 5 minutes, David had sent the Kraxan Empire back to the Stone Age. Vex stood in his darkened command center, emergency lights providing the only illumination. "How?" he whispered. A new transmission came through audio only. It was David's voice, though Vex didn't know it. "You asked how we did this. One human did this. One human who never wanted to create weapons. One human who believed in peace. You killed doctors and patients. You killed children. You woke something that should have stayed asleep. Human ingenuity turned to destruction." "Please," Vex said, his pride finally breaking. "We surrender. We surrender." "Too late," David replied. "You had your chance. But I'm not without mercy. Your people will live. Your colonies will survive. But your empire is over. Your military is finished. You will never threaten another species again." The transmission ended. Across Kraxan space, their ships floated helplessly. Their weapons were destroyed, their technology useless. They had gone from the galaxy's most powerful empire to helpless primitives in one day. On Earth, David finally closed his eyes and slept. The images of the Unity still haunted him, but now there was something else too. The knowledge that no one would ever dare attack a hospital ship again. The first part of humanity's revenge was complete. But David had one more lesson to teach the galaxy. 1 week after the Kraxan Empire fell, representatives from every major galactic power gathered on the neutral station at Centauri Prime. The Valens, the Zephyr Coalition, the Markab Republic, all came to witness what humanity would do next. David attended in person, his first time leaving Earth in years. He stood before the assembly, a simple human among aliens of every shape and size. General Miller stood beside him, but everyone knew who held the real power. "The Kraxan Empire attacked a hospital ship," David began, his voice carrying across the vast chamber. "They broke the most sacred law of war. You all saw what happened to them." The Velen ambassador, a tall crystalline being, spoke first. "You destroyed an entire civilization's technology in one day. Such power is dangerous." "Yes," David agreed. "It is. That's the point." He activated a holographic display. It showed the Unity's final moments, the patients floating in space, the children among them. Several ambassadors looked away. This is what the Kraxans did. This is what they thought was acceptable. I'm here to ensure it never happens again. The Zephyr representative, a gaseous being in a containment suit, asked, "What do you propose?" David smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "The Mercy Doctrine. From this day forward, any ship bearing medical markings is absolutely protected. Any species that fires on such a vessel faces immediate retaliation from humanity. You can't police the entire galaxy." The Markab ambassador protested. "Can't I?" David touched his tablet. Around the station, hundreds of human ships appeared from hyperspace. Each one carried cascade drives. "I designed these weapons in 3 days. Imagine what I could create with more time." The assembly fell silent. David continued. "But there's more. I'm sharing something with all of you." He uploaded a file to the station's central computer. "This is the design for the Shield of Mercy. Install it on your hospital ships. If anyone fires on them, the shield will not only protect the ship, but send a signal directly to Earth. We will respond within hours. You're giving us your technology?" The Velen asked, surprised. "Part of it. The defensive part. Because despite what the Kraxans believed, mercy isn't weakness. It's strength. The strength to heal instead of harm, to protect instead of destroy. On the Kraxan homeworld, Now renamed penance by its own people, former Admiral Vex worked in a field. Without technology, the Craxans had returned to farming. He had traded his uniform for simple clothes, his pride for survival. A young Craxan approached him. "Elder, the humans have sent food supplies." Vex looked up. "After everything?" "They say we must learn, but we need not starve while learning." This was David's other protocol, one he hadn't announced. While the Craxans had lost their military technology, humanity was secretly providing basic necessities. Medicine, food, shelter materials. Not enough to rebuild their empire, but enough to survive and slowly develop a new way of life. Back at Centauri Prime, the vote was called. Every species had to agree to the Mercy Doctrine or face isolation from galactic trade and protection. One by one, they voted yes. Even the warrior cultures understood the message. Humanity had shown they could end any civilization that crossed certain lines. Better to agree than risk annihilation. But then the Terran Empire representatives arrived. These were humans who had split from Earth centuries ago, establishing a militant society in distant space. Their admiral, Rex, stood up. "We don't agree to these terms. Hospital ships are legitimate targets in total war." The assembly gasped. David turned to face Rex, and for the first time, anger showed on his face. "You're human. You should understand better than anyone." "We understand power," Rex replied, "and we won't be bound by Earth's weakness." David was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke, his voice deadly calm. "You have 1 hour to reconsider." Rex laughed. "Or what? You'll attack your own kind?" "No," David said. "I'll do something worse. I'll make sure you can never hurt anyone." Rex left the assembly, confident in his empire's strength. He didn't know that David had already prepared for this possibility. The Terran Empire's ships used technology derived from Earth designs. David knew every weakness, every backdoor. 59 minutes later, Rex's communication device activated. David's face appeared. "Last chance." Rex started to refuse, but the words died in his throat. Every screen in his ship showed the same thing. David's virus had already infected their entire fleet. With one command, he could shut down every Terran Empire vessel. "We agree," Rex said, defeated. The Mercy Doctrine was unanimously approved. Asterisk. 5 years passed after the Mercy Doctrine was signed. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. David stood in the memorial garden on Luna Colony, looking at the monument to the Unity. 800 names were carved into the black marble, every soul lost when the hospital ship was destroyed. He came here every month, never forgetting why he had done what he did. "You saved more lives than you took," a voice said behind him. David turned to see Captain Lisa Park, commander of the new hospital ship Hope. She was one of many who now flew under the protection of his shields. "That doesn't make it easier," David replied. "No, but it makes it necessary." The galaxy had indeed become safer. Not a single hospital ship had been attacked since the doctrine was signed. The Shield of Mercy had been installed on over 10,000 medical vessels. Even pirates and raiders avoided them, knowing what would happen if they fired. The Craxans had transformed too. Without military technology, they had focused on agriculture and art. Their culture, once built on conquest, now celebrated growth and creation. Former Admiral Vex had become a teacher, sharing the hard lessons his people had learned. "Did you hear?" Lisa asked. "The Craxans want to build a hospital ship." David smiled, the first genuine smile in years. "Really?" "They're calling it the Redemption. They want to prove they've changed." This was what David had hoped for, but never expected. Not just fear of retaliation, but actual change. The Craxans weren't just avoiding war crimes. They were actively trying to save lives. In his apartment, now converted into a research lab, David worked on new projects. But these weren't weapons. After the doctrine, he had returned to his original passion, protection and healing. His latest invention was a medical scanner that could detect diseases before symptoms appeared. Tom, still his assistant, brought him tea. The government called again. They want you to design new weapons, just in case. No, David said firmly. The weapons I created should never have existed. They served their purpose. Now we move forward, but the galaxy remembered. Every military academy taught the fall of Craxon as a cautionary tale. Every admiral knew that somewhere on Earth lived a quiet genius who could end their civilization if they crossed the line. Some called him the Destroyer. Others called him the Protector. David didn't care about titles. He had done what was necessary, nothing more. A message arrived from an unexpected source. It was from a young Craxon named Kell, who had been a child when the Empire fell. "Mr. David," the message read, "I wanted to thank you. My grandfather was Admiral Vex. He told me what our people did and what you did in response. You could have killed us all, but you didn't. You gave us a chance to become better. I'm studying to be a doctor now. I want to serve on the redemption when it's built. I want to save lives, not take them." David read the message 3 times. Then he did something he hadn't done in 5 years. He cried. Not from sadness, but from relief. The cycle of violence had been broken. The next day, he received another surprise. The Galactic Council wanted to award him their highest honor, the Star of Peace. The irony wasn't lost on him. Receiving a peace award for creating the most devastating weapons ever conceived. He accepted, but with conditions. The ceremony would be held at the Unity Memorial. And instead of a speech about victory, he would talk about mercy. The day came. Representatives from across the galaxy gathered at the memorial. David stood before them, the Star of Peace in his hand. "This award doesn't belong to me," he said. "It belongs to the 800 souls who died on the Unity. They were the true peacemakers, healing without discrimination. Their death woke something terrible in humanity, and in me specifically. But from that darkness came light. The galaxy learned that mercy must be protected, that those who heal must be safeguarded." He placed the award at the base of the memorial. "Let this be the final lesson. Humans are capable of terrible things when pushed. We can create weapons that shouldn't exist, strategies that defy comprehension. But we choose not to. We choose mercy, healing, and protection. Don't make us choose otherwise." As David walked away, he felt the weight of 5 years lifting from his shoulders. The Unity was avenged. The galaxy was safer. And somewhere in Craxon space, a young alien was studying to be a doctor. Inspired by humanity's complex response to tragedy, the genius had written humanity's revenge. But in the end, he had written something more powerful, humanity's redemption. Asterisk.